Today, I want to dive into something pretty surprising, the major shift we've seen in Donald Trump's campaign over the last month. Just a month ago on September 14, 2024, it really seemed like Trump was on a downward spiral. His poll numbers weren't great, and there was this general feeling that his campaign was losing steam, especially as we started heading into the final stretch before the election. Many political analysts and commentators had begun to count him out, thinking that his chances of securing another term in the White House were fading fast. But if we fast forward to today, things have taken a completely different turn. Trump isn't just back in the game. He's now leading the race, and the momentum seems to be on his side. This shift has been swift, dramatic, and frankly, caught a lot of people off guard. So how did Trump manage to completely flip the narrative in just a few short weeks? That's what we're going to dig into today. We're going to break it all down to understand exactly how Trump went from trailing to becoming the frontrunner in the upcoming November election. To really grasp this shift, let's take a look at two key electoral maps, one from September 14th and one from today. These maps give us a snapshot of where Trump and Harris are expected to do well, and they highlight the solid and likely states. These are states where either candidate is heavily favored, and that probably won't be seriously contested by the opposing side. These safe states don't usually shift much, so we won't spend too much time breaking them down. What's more interesting and worth our attention are the battleground states, those swing states where Trump's rise has been most noticeable. These states are critical in determining the outcome of the election, and they're where we've seen the biggest changes over last month. By focusing on these battleground states, we'll get a clearer picture of why Trump's surge is so important. Let's begin by looking out west at Nevada. Nevada is a state that has leaned Democratic in recent years, but it's now showing signs that it could potentially flip to Trump. Right now, Trump has a narrow lead in Nevada with a 0.2 edge over Harris. Now, 0.2 might not seem like a huge lead, but when you compare it to where things stood back in 2020, the change is quite significant. In the 2020 election, Joe Biden had a 5.2 lead in Nevada, and he eventually won the state by 2.4. So the fact that Trump has closed that gap and even pulled ahead, however slightly, is a big deal. If you go back to just a month ago, Kamala Harris actually had a small lead in Nevada, 1.2 to be exact. Back then, Nevada was classified as tilt blue, meaning it was expected to go Democratic, though not by a large margin. But now with Trump inching ahead, Nevada could very well flip red, which hasn't happened since George W. Bush won the state back in 2004. If Trump manages to win Nevada, it would mark a significant shift, and it could seriously hurt Harris's chances of winning the election. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Moving next door to Arizona, the story is similar. Arizona has been one of the most hotly contested battleground states in recent elections, and it's shaping up to be a critical state once again this year. As of now, Trump has a one lead in Arizona, but there are polls showing him with an even bigger advantage. In fact, a recent poll from the New York Times, which isn't exactly known for being friendly to Republicans, showed Trump with a 5-point lead in Arizona. That's a pretty substantial gap in a state that Joe Biden won by just 0.31 in 2020. Biden's victory in Arizona back then was razor thin, and it was seen as a significant win for Democrats since Arizona had historically been a Republican state. But now it seems like Trump is poised to take back Arizona. He's currently polling better than he did in 2020, and his lead has remained fairly steady over the last month. Back in September, Trump had a 1.3 lead in Arizona, which wasn't much, but it was enough to show that he had momentum, while Harris briefly pulled ahead in the polls after the Democratic National Convention. Trump quickly regained his lead, and it doesn't look like he's going to let it go. Arizona is now looking more and more like it's going to go red this time around, and that's a crucial win for Trump if it happens. Let's turn now to New Mexico, which tells a slightly different story. Unlike Nevada and Arizona, New Mexico is still leaning toward Harris, but her lead has been shrinking. A month ago, Harris was leading in New Mexico by 10 points, which seemed like a comfortable margin. But now her lead has dropped to 8, which still puts her in a strong position. But it shows that Trump is making some inroads. New Mexico has a significant Hispanic population, And in recent years, we've seen a trend of Hispanic voters shifting away from the Democratic Party and toward Republicans. This shift is something that both campaigns are watching closely, as it could have a big impact not just in New Mexico, but in other states with large Hispanic population as well. While I don't think Harris is in real danger of losing New Mexico at this point, it's worth noting that her margin of victory could be smaller than expected. If that trend continues, it could make New Mexico more competitive than it's been in past elections. As of now, it's still classified as likely blue, but the shrinking lead for Harris is something to keep an eye on. Next, let's head south to Texas, where Trump is looking increasingly strong. Texas has long been a Republican stronghold, and Trump won the state in both 2016 and 2020 without too much trouble. However, in recent years, there's been a lot of talk about Texas becoming more competitive for Democrats, especially as its urban areas grow and diversify. But right now, Trump has a solid 5.7 lead in Texas, which is actually an improvement from his 4.7 lead just a month ago. Back in 2016, Trump won Texas by 9 points, and in 2020, his margin of victory shrank to 5 points. But it looks like Trump is regaining ground in Texas, and if these trends hold, he could end up winning the state by a double-digit margin. While some had hoped that Texas might turn into a true battleground state this year, it's looking like Trump has the upper hand. And I think it's safe to say that Texas will remain red in this election. Even though the map currently classifies Texas as lean red, I expect it to move into the solid red category as we get closer to Election Day. Now, let's shift our focus to the Midwest, where things are starting to look more challenging for Kamala Harris. Just a month ago, Harris was in a pretty strong position across much of the Midwest. It seemed like she was on track to win key states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which would give her a clear path to victory. But over the last few weeks, we've seen a significant shift with Trump gaining ground in several of these states. Let's start with Minnesota, which is the home state of Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz. Harris still holds a lead in Minnesota, but that lead has been shrinking. Right now, she's up by 4.7, which is down from the 6.5 lead she had a month ago. While she's still favored to win Minnesota, the fact that her lead is narrowing is noteworthy. In 2020, Biden won Minnesota by about 7 points. So if Harris's margin continues to shrink, it could indicate that the race is tightening and a state Democrats really need to win. As of now, Minnesota is classified as lean blue, but the trend isn't in Harris's favor. Moving to Wisconsin, the race is even closer. Harris currently has a razor-thin lead in Wisconsin, just 0.3. That's down from her 1.2 lead a month ago, and it shows that Trump is closing the gap fast. Wisconsin is one of the most crucial battleground states in the country, and if Trump manages to take the lead here, it could spell trouble for Harris. Wisconsin has been a key state in the last several elections, and is likely to play a pivotal role in this one as well. Right now, Wisconsin is still classified as tilt blue, but if Trump's momentum continues, it could very well flip to tilt red before Election Day. One of the biggest surprises of the campaign so far has been Michigan. In 2020, Michigan was one of the bluest swing states, with Biden winning by nearly 3 points. But now, Trump has taken the lead in Michigan with a narrow advantage of almost 1. This is a dramatic reversal from a month ago when Harris was leading by 0.7. Michigan has now moved from tilt blue to tilt red on the electoral map, and that's a big deal. If Trump wins Michigan, it would be a huge blow to Harris's campaign, as Michigan is a key part of the Democrats' strategy to win the Midwest. Now, before we move on, let's talk briefly about Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. If you're someone who likes to keep track of election odds in real time and see how various events are impacting the race, Polymarket is a great tool for you. It's different from traditional polls because it updates instantly based on what thousands of traders are predicting. You can even participate in the market yourself by buying shares and outcomes you think are likely to happen. Right now, Polymarket shows Trump as the favorite, which is a reflection of the trends we're seeing in the poll. One more state that's worth mentioning is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has been a critical battleground in the last several elections and is shaping up to be a major prize once again. Trump currently has a slim lead in Pennsylvania with a 0.5 advantage over Harris. This is a big shift from 2020 when Biden won the state by 1.2. A month ago, Harris had a 1.3 lead in Pennsylvania, but now Trump has pulled ahead, and it looks like the state is trending in his direction. Pennsylvania is one of the most important states for either candidate, and if Trump continues to gain ground here, it could be a game changer for the election. If we zoom out and take a look at the national picture, the shift we've seen over the past month is clear as day. On September 14, Harris was on track to win with 276 electoral votes in her column. Fast forward to today, and Trump has surged ahead with 302 electoral votes, making him the clear frontrunner. This means Trump has gone from being behind to leading the race in just a few weeks. If this trend continues, we could see more states move into Trump's column as we get closer to Election Day. So as it stands now, Trump's path to victory is looking stronger than ever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis and want to stay updated on all the latest election news, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter for live updates and political commentary as we count down to Election Day. The link is in the description below. Stay tuned for more updates, and I'll catch you in the next video.